just setting up. Here we go again. It is Thursday the 29th of June now. It's been a week and a day since I last did a video, and like I said, I did just want to keep doing this week to week, just to keep it up basically, and to keep going with everything, and to keep the project in motion, because I feel like if I wasn't setting this as a task each week, it would be 2 weeks before I even think about it. So I want it to be all-consuming, and I just want to have this particular deadline each week so that actually when it comes to filming I've got something that I can talk about. I've actually written myself a list this time of talking points, because having looked at the previous video, it was the first one I'd ever done, and I feel like it wasn't really necessarily very structured, nor was it particularly well thought out. And I think that will come with time and practice, and like the constant stream of these videos I think will get better over time, but editing them as well in particular was quite difficult, so I need to be sure that I'm very clear with how I speak, use my theatre performance training for that purpose. But yeah, I wanted to write a list so that this was more structured and it actually made more sense to the project. Yeah, so to stick to my list so this isn't just a disjointed video. So a couple of days ago on Tuesday I was up at university on campus with my supervisor Aidan, and we had a full induction day for the technical side of my project, specifically the recording side of everything, not anything to do with in the theatre. It was a long day. I say long day, it was 10 till 3 with a half-hour break. That's fine, I mean that's doable, absolutely, but when it's a one-to-one session it actually feels a lot longer. There was a lot of information to take in terms of the technical learning that I've got to do for this project. I'm a musical theatre performer by trade, and I'm going into sound design as a complete novice, which is not a bad thing. I think it's quite good, and it will, I think that the fact that I don't have all that much knowledge actually will help in terms of the organic sound that I'm trying to get. And when I say organic, I don't mean like vegetables and grass sounds, I just mean organic as in all made by me, hopefully without having to depend upon sounds and sound effects that have already been created by someone else. For example, turning to native instruments or some of the instruments that are on Logic Pro. If they're all made by me, then I feel like I've actually succeeded in what I want to do. The induction day was really, really useful. It was insightful as well. As a theatre student, you don't actually get to see much of the media department side of things, even though we're all part of the same umbrella. We as theatre arts students are never joined and we're never merged with each other. So we are in the department of media and performing arts, but theatre arts sits very much on one side of that. Stupid, so stupid. I didn't realise at the university, having been there for a fair few months now, that they actually had radio rooms where you can record and interview people in a radio environment. Those rooms are available to me over the summer, where I can use them as a quiet space to record, so I could take my binaural mics in there and I can do some of the dialogue, or I could take a regular condenser mic that we were talking about on Tuesday and do some of the dialogue with that as well, but it would be quiet and it would be a really good space to use. We're not given access to these rooms, and I think that's probably because there's 3,000 media students who'll be all fighting for them during the main bulk of the year, but during the summer they're actually a lot more available and free because most of the students have left for summer. So I was inducted into the radio rooms, so I can now have access and I can book time online through the Loan Store, I think, for that. And I was inducted into specific equipment as well, including some specific microphones that are used a lot in film and television. They pick up audio really, really well. I was also inducted into lots of other different things that I now have access to. So learning about the technical aspects of a mic was really useful. As a performer in my past, I've never needed, nor did I ever feel the need or want to actually learn this technical side of the mic. Learning and understanding where the sound is picked up from, learning the best placement for the mic, the best voltage that's needed for specific mics, all this sort of stuff never came up because it was more a case of they just strapped it to your body, face usually, sometimes on your head, and you would just walk on stage and hope that the mics were on, even though you're trained to be heard at the back of the room without a mic anyway. Just put that in there. But now, I guess because I'm going into sound design, I'm more interested in it because it means more now. So I think obviously that's why I want to learn it. And it was really interesting. So I'm quite happy with that, and I've got plenty of notes on that. And it means that when it comes to lots of the recording side, I won't be needing to necessarily Google it all or learn definitions or anything like that. I can just I know now, and I have the confidence now that I can just get to work with recording and know that the mics that I have are ones that I know how to use. That's really important. So yeah, I was inducted into mics, I was inducted into a specific sound field recorder that I'm going to show a bit later on, into specific rooms, and just means that I can now book those things at the university and use them at my will. With discussion with Aidan, he helped me come to a decision about what software I'm going to use for this project. We talked a lot about Pro Tools, and they have got the Pro Tools suite there, but that really limits my time on working on the actual specific project itself, because I'm only on campus Wednesdays and Thursdays due to outside commitments, and as much as I could lock myself in a room for 10 hours on both those days, so I get 20 hours of working time a week, it's not enough for me. And so the decision was that I use Logic Pro. I have Logic Pro, and the university has Logic Pro as well. So it means that I can do plenty of work during my weekends, in the evenings, even on the 2 days that I'm in the university. It's a portable workstation, which suddenly really expands the possibilities of how much time I can spend on this. So Logic Pro is definitely now going to be my software for this, but I feel, having talked to Aidan about this in much detail, that perhaps at the end of the course I might invest in some Pro Tools training, because I believe that Pro Tools is being used a lot more than Logic in the wider industry. So I think it would definitely be worth learning it properly. I've left the university, so we have access at the university to a loan store, and as an MA student I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have Aidan support my project, and it allows me to have an extended loan period. So there's a couple things. The first thing I'm going to show, actually, I want to show you them because I want to be able to just quickly show what I started with, and I think because this is the second video I've made, and you know, a couple of months down the line, or I'm closer to the end, I want to see whether the equipment I use is exactly the same, or whether it's changed dramatically, or whether it's just been tweaked ever so slightly. Just bear with me. So the first thing that I'm going to show you are the couple bits that I already own, and then I'll get on to the loan store stuff, which is actually the more professional side of things. So first and foremost, because of the nature of my project, I will try to be using the binaural headphones that I've got. So these are the Roland CS 10EM. They are binaural headphones and microphones combined. I'll put a cutaway in this so you can get a closer look. But this is very simple to use. I plug it into my field recorder that I've got, which I'm going to show you in just a second. Stick them in my ears or in the ears of the dummy head that I made for a different module on the course. And I then can record the outside world as it is and should be in binaural audio. So for example, if a car horn was to go off in that direction, or a bird was to tweet sort of up there, with these headphones, when you're listening back, you should be able to place that in the direction that it actually came from. So I'm hoping to use these for dialogue. They're very good for whispering in the ear, and as well as capturing some binaural atmospheric noises. The issue with that is the nature of this country is, even if you're in the middle of the countryside, there's going to be a plane that you can hear, or the motorway in the distance. I don't think I've ever actually found a place that is just pure nature and nothing else. So it might have to be post-processed, but that's okay. That's what we're learning. We're learning how to do this. So they go with my Roland R05 field recorder. This literally is so portable. It's really useful, and it just allows me to record those because they have these tiny sort of normal headphone jack size that you put into a iPhone rather than big headphones. So the second and last thing that I own is something I've not actually had an opportunity to use before, and I think that's sort of partly because I never had a reason to in the end. It was a gift that I personally requested, but I never actually made use of it. But now I have a reason to use it. So what I have is the Rode NT1A condenser mic, and having learned a bit about those now, and also looking at the diagrams for this mic online, it's quite directional at the front. So I'm going to see whether it's good for dialogue or whether there's any way I could maybe record some sounds with this. It's just useful to have an extra piece of equipment that you can test. It's probably not, I may not actually use it completely, but this is something that actually I'll just use in a sort of explore and play type of way. It comes with all the cables that you need, just this XLR cable here. Also, if I'm going to use it for dialogue, it comes with a pop shield and a shock mount as well. So that's the Rode condenser mic, so we're going to see how that goes. God. The next bits that I'm going to show are the actual bits that I've borrowed from the university, and these ones are really exciting. They have just recently purchased the Soundman binaural headphones, and they also have an Ambio microphone, which I'm really excited for, but at the moment I'm just going to concentrate on these bits before I get into the ambisonic side of everything. So I was allowed to borrow these. They are the Soundman wind jammers, glorified earmuffs, but what this allows is I can use these with my Roland binaural mics, which will be excellent because then I won't now have to worry too much about the elements, because the Roland mics did come with their own sort of wind jammers, but they weren't very effective, let's say, particularly. So I'm going to see what these are like. I'll have to get outside and find a windy day and see how much these actually stop, but they're going to be really useful. And actually, in terms of recording dialogue, as was mentioned to me by Aidan, these would be really useful as well because they stop the popping of the P's. They're effectively also, as well as a wind jammer, they are effectively a pop shield, like I just showed you for the Rode NT1A mic. So they'll be really useful, I think, in this process, particularly if I'm going to find any caves or anything to record in. So this piece of equipment as well is really exciting, and I've had a little play with this today. So this little chap is the Schertler DYN P48 Active Moving Coil Transducer. I have to read it off the pamphlet because I don't ever remember what it's called. But in layman's terms, it's a contact mic. So this little piece of kit I'm going to be using to create my own sound library, partly, as well as using a condenser mic for that. So it looks like something you might get at a hospital. And you use a small amount of putty that comes with it, and you stick it against a surface, and you record the noises of that surface, or you manipulate the surface. So it would be like if I stuck it on my tripod and ran my fingers down, it would record the vibrations of that. And it's really cool. So now it's just a case of opening up my imagination to the possibilities of the sounds around me in the domestic environment. I tried it on a tumble dryer earlier, and actually the effect was better than I was expecting. And now all I want to do is stick this to things and record everything. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a challenge to get noises that actually are usable. I'm really excited to use this bit of kit, and I think as much as the ambisonic / binaural equipment will be, this is now as important to the process for my project. So the final thing that I have borrowed from the university and can play with for a month is the Zoom F8 multi-track field recorder. Here it is in all its glory. The great thing about the Lone Store at the university is it comes with all the gubbins as well. So in the kit I've got 4 batteries, a pair of headphones, and also the adapter so I can plug this in at home, so if I am working indoors I can plug it in and not waste the battery power. I was inducted into this, so I know how to use it. I still am going to watch probably a couple of videos on YouTube just to be sure that I'm using it correctly. I believe I was. I could hear what I needed to hear earlier today when I was practicing with the Schertler, and I'm actually just really excited to take this places and get recording and build my library, so that it's not even just for this project actually either, it's so that it's something that I can take with me into my career. So that's the equipment side of everything. I just need to consult my notebook. So that's the equipment that I'm going to use. I feel like now that I've borrowed the kit that I have, I feel like I now know who I am and what I'm doing. I don't necessarily feel professional yet, but I feel like all of this time spent honing the skill and working out actually what kind of practitioner I'm going to be, it's actually all there in this very small bundle of technology, and I'm really excited for that. As I did last week, I'm always going to do a this week and a next week. This week I am concentrating on the recording side of things, getting to grips with it, getting quicker at setting everything up and getting on the move, as well as actually adapt the section of the book that I'm trying to interpret. Because at the moment, and as it was noticed in the induction, a lot of talk came back to the project and I didn't have enough answers for Aidan when he asked specific things, you know, where do you see this being performed? Where do you see your piece being played? Where is it going? How much binaural is there going to be? How much soundscape is there going to be? What sort of sound are you going with? Is it purely atmospheric? Is there going to be music? You know, all these sort of questions, and actually I didn't have an answer. What sort of narrative is it going to be? Is it going to be pure narrative? Is it going to be instructional? Is it going to be more than one person? So I don't know those things yet, and I know I don't. And actually in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks today or 2 weeks yesterday, we have our first sharing session as a group of MA students. We're all going to be showing each other what we've done, and I would really like something to show for that. So this weekend I am going to concentrate a lot on the adaptation for my interpretation, as well as starting the build of my sound library. And that's it actually. As well as all the research, I do certain amounts of reading each day so that I keep the research going, because as I found in my proposal stage, I still don't have my overarching research question, which is what we will be assessed on essentially. I think it's something that's going to come up later on in the project. I think it's something that's going to manifest throughout the process, but I want to keep the reading going so that I've always got something to back it up with. And hopefully in the next video I will have some sounds that I can embed into it, and also part of an adaptation to show, and that will be really great, and that will make me feel like I am working week to week, but working well enough that when it comes to the specific weeks and when it comes to the middle of September when we have to show this, I know that I'm not going to be having a mad rush. I'm hoping that I am actually going to be quite pragmatic about this, and I'm hoping that I'll be as productive as possible. Next week is going to be more or less the same. I am going to spend, so I have this equipment for a month, and I think I'm going to spend every day of that month building my sound library. The adaptation, I think, at the moment is the most important part, and if I can get that down by the 13th of July when we have our first sharing session, I'll be really pleased. And if that happens, I know that I will be working as I want to work, which is sort of week to week, but on schedule. And once I have the adaptation, then the recording of everything will suddenly all slot into place, and I think in the end actually it might be the research that will be the thing that I do the most of towards the end of the project. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. I've just been doing plenty of reading this week. I've had my induction. I'm now moving into the sound library phase of everything and moving into adaptation phase. So as I said at the beginning, these videos are really, really useful because they firstly give me a deadline week to week. So now I am only working week to week. I'm not working from day to day, I'm not working from month to month because that's too long. Week to week is perfect. It helps my productivity because I know that I've got the deadline of a Wednesday or a Thursday the following week where I need something to talk about for this process. And to sit and talk about it out loud, it's just really useful because when you look back at the video and go to edit it, you suddenly realise what you're not saying against what you are. And what I'm not saying, are we putting in a blog? I think that's where this is going to go.